Hello, and welcome to our Google Hangout for the Data Science in Stratified Healthcare and Precision Medicine MOOC. And this is our third Hangout, so this is our third session for week 1. But we also have some other learners from week 2, session 2, and hopefully session 1 as well. So, quick introduction, I'm Frances Wong.
My name is Areti Manataki.
And we're your course organisers. I'm sure you know us by now. And for these Hangouts, normally the purpose of it is so that we can answer your questions. This is a slightly special Hangout because we have a guest speaker with us today, and that's Steph. And we've invited Steph along because she's one of our learners who has completed the MOOC in the first session. So Steph, welcome. Would you like to give our learners a bit of a background about yourself?
Hi everyone. I'm Steph. I work at the Data Lab Innovation Centre at the University of Edinburgh. I took the course because I was curious about online learning courses and also out of personal and professional interest.
So do you have any programming experience?
Not beyond my undergrad, Unix and LaTeX and all that, because I did astrophysics, but not since then, and it was a long time ago.
Okay.
And no healthcare or
no, not at all. Nope.
Okay, so can you tell our learners your thoughts about the course and the course content, and how did you find it?
I really enjoyed the course. It was, like I said, it was my first online MOOC. I thought the content was really good because having not done one, I wasn't really sure what to expect. And I thought the pace was good. I kind of sped through it a bit because I was going on holiday. No, I thought the level it was pitched at was good. I thought the coding was a bit hard. It was harder than I expected it to be. I had to get some help from my colleagues, and my data scientist colleagues actually looked at it and said, "Oh, actually, this is a really good level of coding." I've actually done some other courses since then, and no, I highly recommend this course. I thought it was very good, good level, good amount of information, taught and learned.
We're bribing.
No, I'll get the money from you later.
I'm not. And so, also, how did you fit the MOOC in with your sort of work and everyday life?
Well, I think I was in quite a lucky position where I actually did it during my working day. So, I did very little of it in my own time because I was quite lucky to have a break in what I'm doing to take it on. But
so does this mean that you talk to your line manager and they?
No, it was all part of my PDR saying I wanted to learn a bit more about data science because I manage data science projects in healthcare, so it was very relevant, and I just wanted to get a more in-depth understanding of the topic. So I thought this was the first thing that appeared after I decided that, and some other courses I was looking at weren't starting yet, so I thought, why not?
So excellent. So, but for people out there who sort of maybe are not in such a lucky position as you, do you have any tips for our learners, whether they should do it in the evenings or weekends, how they should pace themselves, or?
Well, I think it really is down to the individual person, how you learn. I like to kind of charge through things. Other people might want to, watch the videos and stuff and take it all in before. It's really down to you, but the recommended timings for doing the course are pretty good. And I think the suggested hours you're meant to spend on it are pretty appropriate.
So how did you study? How did you approach your studying and your learning with the course? Did you try any quizzes before watching videos? Or
no, I just followed it. I just followed it exactly.
Okay.
I just think it's designed that way for a reason. Yeah. So I thought I won't question why it is in that order. I did think that week 1 and 2 were pretty smooth sailing as such. I thought it was really good. It was really interesting. And then week 3 came the coding, and that's when it was like, whoa, hold on a minute, and I actually had to revisit certain things. It was a good introduction to Python as well, which I thought was one thing I was interested in doing. It was it was, yeah, I followed it because I think that's probably the best way to do it, because then you get the whole picture as opposed to trying the quizzes. Although, you know, I've never thought about it doing that way. So maybe I don't like the next course.
That's not the way I do it. I learned, but some people do apparently.
Yeah, I think it's good to do the quizzes after you've done that week's course, and then, you know, everything's fresh in your mind, and everything like that. So, and how did you find the final assessment for the essay?
Oh, well, what I discovered from peer reviewing is that everyone interprets it completely differently. I took it very literally. Probably it's the same, you know, manner in which I did everything like this. I went, oh, okay, I will choose 2 things. I will talk about the 2 things, and then I'll add the ethics, add the scenario, and that'll be it. Other people kind of took a much more, you know, went for much more of a narrative, and was kind of like talking about you know, an example and using that example to talk about the 2 things, which I thought was brilliant. But also probably displayed that they probably had more of a background in the area than maybe some of us did. No, I wanted to squeeze in the sentence, 1,000 words is too little, but I was already over and I couldn't do it. But no, it was interesting. I've never done a peer review thing before.
So did you learn anything from doing the peer review process, or from reading other learners' essays?
Yeah, like I said, you know, it was one thing, and not so much the subject, but learning that, you know, everyone obviously comes from a very different background into such a course. So, like I said, like one of the peer review assessments I looked at, this person obviously had quite a lot of experience in a related industry and was able to offer a much more rich example than I think, say, I would have. Or, you know, I saw some discussion forums, people seem to be coming to this cold, and that, you know, we wouldn't be able to add that context to an essay. So so no, it was interesting.
So it's a good experience that you can learn from reading other people's essays as well. And things like that. So overall, would you say that you learned something from this MOOC? Please say yes.
Sorry, where's that? Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally did learn something from this course. You know, actually establishing the basics of data science through this course was quite an interesting thing, because I've actually taken dedicated data science courses after, and I realized, oh yeah, no, I learned that from that course, which I thought was great. And yeah, no, I even went on and took a Kaggle Python challenge. Really hard, but it got me halfway through it though, actually, just from there. Yeah.
Good. So you might want to tell our learners, or some of our learners that might not know what Kaggle is. Do you want to?
Oh yeah, Kaggle's like this kind of online community with like data science challenges, and not long after I finished the course, there was a 7-day introduction to Python challenge, and every day it and that was for beginners. So and you know, every day they sent you, you know, information, and then you had to try and do the stuff. I think I got to halfway through the week where I was like, whoa, I think I need to spend more time on this.
It's a challenge.
It was a challenge, but yeah, no, Kaggle is well, some people view it as, if you want to make it and be a rock star data scientist, that's where you go and take on the challenges and win competitions.
And it's open. It's for people all over the world, right?
Yep, it's online, open to everyone. And that specific challenge I was part of, they very specifically said this is for people who do not know how to code with Python. And they said that if you do know, goodbye. So yeah, no, it was good.
That's great. So that's a great example of what you can do after the MOOC, because a lot of our learners wonder about things like that. So that's a great example of a fun thing to do after the MOOC, and you felt confident enough, having never done Python before, but got introduced to it on this course, to go on and do something else. That's great.
Yeah, no, it was good fun.
Excellent. Do you have any other questions?
I do have a question. I always have a question. And it's got nothing to do with the course. Imagine that. So you did mention that in your work, what you do is look at data science projects in healthcare. So would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I was actually mentioned in the MOOC, which I was quite delighted to find out. And the project I specifically mentioned was spoken about by Professor Aileen Keel. I managed the Cancer Innovation Challenge, which is an initiative funded by Scottish Funding Council to encourage open innovation in data to improve cancer care in Scotland. So we have two key bits of that, and one is very data sciencey, which is innovative data science solutions to improve cancer care and outcomes in Scotland. So a lot of it was quite relevant, and one of the objectives of the brief for the second funding competition we did was to enable precision medicine approaches. So yeah, it was quite apt.
Great. Excellent. Well, we'd love to continue talking to you, but I'm afraid that that's all we have time for today. But thank you very much for coming in and telling us about your experience and your positive experience for this MOOC.
Yeah, no, it's great. And, if all of you are in week one, stick with it. You'll learn something. It's really, really good. So, and I'm honestly not being paid for this. So, I mean, the sun is shining outside. I'm in here telling you. But, no, good luck to everyone. And, Areti and Francis and the team are obviously very helpful. So, enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
See you later.
Okay, so now I think we're going to bring in one of our teaching assistants, Patrick.
Hello, everyone.
Patrick. So this is your first hangout with us. So why don't you tell our learners a bit about yourself?
Right. Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Patrick, and I'm a PhD student in the School of Informatics at the University of Edinburgh. Currently, I'm almost at the end of my second year of PhD, doing machine learning and optimal transport. And hopefully very soon I will apply my tools to some genomic data.
Yes, so you've come from a very informatics background, but you have an interest in sort of biomedical sciences.
Yes, I'm also working on a project where I analyze clinical data from patients to try and predict survivals for brain tumor patients, essentially, and that's very interesting. And you're doing some good for the world.
Yes, definitely.
Applying data science.
Yes, so Patrick has been helping everyone out in the discussion forums. But before we get into that, we're going to give you a quick course recap. So this is just the first week of our third session. So in this week, it's more about the introduction to the course and introduction to Python. And there are going to be two case studies within this week, one from Professor Andrew Morris and the other one from Professor Aileen Keel. And these are our case studies, interviews with experts in their fields. So these are very interesting case studies. So you can look forward to that at the end of this week. Areti, why don't you tell our learners what they have to look forward to in the coming weeks?
Oh, there's a lot to be looking forward to. So we've got, I'm too excited to get off screen. So there's another 4 weeks coming, which means quite a few topics. So typically we cover 2 topics per week. Week 3 has 3, so a little bit more there. And you're going to be seeing, learning about different types of modeling. So network modeling. What do networks look like? How to represent them? Process modeling. How can we capture a series of steps for carrying out a task? You're going to be having a look at natural language processing, where there's been great advances in the last few years, and that's very, very, very relevant to the clinical and healthcare domain, where you have clinical notes and prescriptions written by hand. So making sense of such text-based data is a great opportunity. And then in week 5, we look at graph data, which is an approach to making the linking of disparate data, enabling that linking basically, which is what needs to take place in order to make the most of all these different types of data and their representation. Unless you link it all, I don't think we're going to get to the precision medicine vision.
Absolutely, and throughout these weeks, we're going to have other case studies as well.
Oh, so many, yes.
Enhance
from academia,
learning experience,
industry, the NHS. Yeah, lots of interesting stories.
Exactly. So please stick with us, and you'll find out in the coming weeks what we've been telling you about. And so let's move on to the discussion forums. Patrick, what's been happening in the forums recently?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on something that someone mentioned. So Marwa from Egypt wanted to have more information about what she can do after she finishes the course and how she can get into medical informatics. And I wanted to point a few resources from the University of Edinburgh to begin with. There are some scholarships, Edinburgh Global Research Scholarships, that give medical professionals and students of around the world the opportunity to study medical informatics at the University of Edinburgh. There is also a program called Global Health Program with the College of Medicine. And there are also scholarships from the Data Lab where Steph works. And so these are a few of the opportunities that one can have in the UK.
And there's another one. And there's the Data Science Technology and Innovation Program, which is fully online. And there we have a specialism in medical
informatics, exactly. And there are also some courses in biomedical informatics and health and data analytics at Imperial College of London. Also, I wanted to say that if you're having a hard time kind of grasping this whole field, it's best to kind of narrow it down to what you find interesting from our course. And for example, for Marwa's case, she worked with electronic health records, so it would be a good idea for her to look at open source data that exists and try and kind of analyze it and play around with it to kind of get a feel of how it's like to work in data science and with healthcare data.
Excellent. That's some very helpful suggestions out there for everyone. Do you have, I think there was a question about Python in the weekly forums this week. So can you tell our learners a bit about that?
Yeah, so Python for data science specifically. One good opportunity is Kaggle, as Steph mentioned. There are loads of challenges there and it's free of charge and you can collaborate and interact. And another one that I specifically like is Data Camp, which is another online resource where you can take courses from beginner level to more advanced levels where you actually do data science in a biological setting, in biological data. So there are lots of resources there, and I think it can be helpful for everyone.
And there are more and more books, as in textbooks that are freely available, and they're not of any lesser value than the ones that are, cost some money. So I've seen some really, really good books out there around programming, data science, really good. So just have a look around.
Yeah, blog posts, a lot of people write, and if you have a kind of a centralized resource management system, you can gather a lot of blogs that are really good and can help you learn more about data science for free.
And that's all from like beginner level, intermediate. And advanced levels. Yep. Excellent. So let's move on to some of our specific Hangout questions. Moretti, I think we have some very good questions from one of our learners.
Yes, so Phil has posted his questions and our first reaction was, oh, these are really tough questions, but these are excellent questions. For instance, one of the questions that Phil has asked is around the setup and ethics surrounding the use of NHS data. And basically the question is there to consent or not to consent. So have consented data or non-consented data. And what are the pros and cons of each approach? So as far as I know, the approach that is taken by the FAR Institute and the Scottish Data Safe Haven group is that they provide consented data only. And they're very transparent about this. So that's all very safe in a way. The UK Biobank also have data from a large number of people, which has, have also given their consent. Yeah, it's a great resource. But at the same time, it is a bit of an opportunity missed, right? If there's so much data in the NHS, and if there's no consent around it, then why shouldn't we researchers be using that data? there is a bit of a debate around it, and if you ask different people, they will tell you different things. So that's why our first reaction to this was, oh, what shall we say here? So what I've decided I'm going to say is my personal opinion, okay? So it doesn't mean that it's the only one or the right one.
Yes.
So I'm going to be a little bit bold and say that if people want to use the NHS, patients want to take receive good quality care that is up to the recent developments in medicine and research, then they should by default give their data, make it available for research. I think it's a little bit could be a little bit selfish to make use of other people's data for your own healthcare and not provide your own data. So if it was up to me, I would probably have a default rule being NHS data is consented data, and if people have objections, then they can state them.
Yeah, but it's also important to realise that even when people consent for their data to be used, the data is actually anonymised.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it's not like just because you've consented that we know who it is. It's actually because, you know, because it's anonymised, it actually can be quite difficult to find out who you are. So your data is actually perfectly safe.
Yes, and who has access to the data? That's also very important. Mm-hmm. So being very clear about who has access to the data, what the experiment protocols look like. That's part of the whole story around the information governance.
Yes, and that's why there's like review committees who decide whether you're able to use this data for research and things like that. So there are safeguards in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. So that's a great question. And as Areti said, it's a very personal question as well. So everyone has their own opinion. So we need to respect everybody's opinion on that.
Of course, yeah. There's another question asked by Phil, where again, there's no right and wrong answer. It's just about what people think. So again, I'm going to share what I think. So the questions are around artificial intelligence and the use of big data, and whether that might be making clinicians or workers or domain experts redundant. So, you know, the question really is, are we going to be needing a doctor later on after a few decades, or will a clever machine do everything for us? So I personally think that clinicians will still be needed.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, computational methods and artificial intelligence systems can be very, very useful to support those clinicians. So they can focus on the things that they're best at. And in any case, what, you know, computer says no, the computer could just give you a recommendation, and then it's up to the clinician's expertise and experience to act upon different cases.
Exactly.
Absolutely. If I can add something to that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of debate around the radiologists and whether they would lose their jobs and so on, because medical imaging is advancing extremely fast. And a lot of people in the machine learning community and data science community agree that this is not the case, because what these systems do, they allow you to go at levels where the human eye cannot go, and they can interpret images in such a way that a person cannot do. But then the clinician comes in and he can analyze it with his experience, and he can spend time on doing valuable things that he was trained to do, instead of trying to do things that the machine can do.
Absolutely. So this is the important point that we're trying to make here, is that technology can help support, and the key word being support, you know, clinicians and medical professionals. But I think we still need the doctors and the nurses and other healthcare professionals to interact and to give their human eye sort of their value.
Perhaps it's also worth mentioning for people that are interested in this kind of topics, a project that I was up until recently involved in was looking at social machines. So the project is called Socium, and it's a UK-based project. And what are social machines? They're hybrid systems where you have machines and humans work together. And Tim Berners-Lee, who's the guy that invented the web, he kind of pushed this whole idea of social machines. And his definition of social machines is, it's those hybrid systems where humans do the creative things and machines do the kind of nitty-gritty, boring stuff.
So machines again can help, but again we still need the human touch. Yes, so that's great. So thank you, Phil, for those 2 great questions, and we hope that we've answered those for you. Well, we've certainly given our opinions anyway. And if other people have their own opinions, please post them on the forum. And before we finished today, I think because it's week 1 of the 3rd session, and we know that some learners are very new to programming, and Arete normally gives us some very helpful programming tips, but I think with Patrick's background, I think it's good to have a different opinion. So Patrick, why don't you tell us about your sort of programming experience and how you learned to programming and some advice for our beginners?
Yeah, sure. I won't go into details in blogs and very specific detail where to find resources. I think that I will leave for the forum and for the links that I can put there, but I just wanted to say that it's really important for everyone to not despair and be, kind of overwhelmed by the amount of information there is out there, and try and get to grips with the fundamentals of programming. So, for example, different programming languages exist, technology will advance, but the fundamentals will stay the same. So that's why I think it's important for people to go through tutorials that tackle on types and data structures for Python, for example, and go through them step by step. Maybe it helps as well if they have a project in mind that they want to do that is not very difficult, and they can get rewards as they progress through their tasks. And yeah, just learning by doing is a good approach. And I think there are plenty of resources online and blog posts and tutorials that are free of charge. And yes, and as you progress with curating more and more information, you will have this kind of knowledge base, and you will go to places where you know that you're one Google away from finding an answer. But the fundamentals, they are harder to find on Google. Yeah, I think that's me.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. But also just to tell people that who are new to programming, sort of, that you can sort of get through it, and there is help out there for everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It can be done, right? We did it.
It can be done.
Too.
Yes. Everybody learned from the
I didn't know Python until I knew. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. So that's great. So I think, unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, and we'll chat to you again soon.
See you around.
Bye.
Bye.